Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of The Author's Journey. I am so excited to have our guest here with us. Before I get to introduce Joselyne, my name is Rassi. I'm a leadership coach, book coach, author, and speaker. I support experienced writers in becoming authors, anywhere from idea to publishing. And it's been such a great journey, rewarding, fulfilling in so many different ways. So today I have with me Joselyne John. She's the author of Sleep Tight. Woo, 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 woo. If you don't have this book yet, you got to go get it. You got to go get it. And she's going to tell us all about it. And she's going to tease us on what is in there. Joselyne, I'm going to pass it on to you if you can introduce yourself to our audience who are listening right now. And we can take it from there.
Hello, everyone. My name is Joselyne John, and you can call me Jocelyn. By training, I work as a registered nurse, and I'm also the author, of course, of Sleep Tight, the number one secret to achieving your dreams. And this book, of course, was born out of my passion and kind of my side career, where I help people improve their sleep quality so that they can be more productive, optimize their health, performance, and live fulfilling lives. And I have been in sleep science for I look back now, like 7 years, like since 2017. And I came into sleep science, of course, searching for my own solutions when I was sleep deprived, which is pretty much the basis of my book. But the tools and solutions I have picked up throughout by becoming a certified sleep science coach, by doing extra training. So my area of training really focused on the holistic picture of sleep, looking at how stress affects sleep, hormones affect sleep, your thyroid issues, thyroid health, gut health, your lifestyle. And lifestyle encompasses a lot of different things, and nutrition, exercise. So it's a very holistic perspective of sleep, and knowing that, of course, sleep is just one of the six areas of health. So I'm just all about holistic health and thriving, because I think we're here on earth. There's so many different ways to look at it, but the way I look at it is life has been the best gift that we've been given. And then it's up to us to decide the quality of that life. Because as a nurse, I've seen so many different aspects of health. We could actually exist on earth and just in the end pass on. Recently, that's possible. I've seen it too. But we could be here intentionally and say, okay, what are, what are the possibilities? Now it's not like back in the day where people lived like 300 years. The possibilities are maybe we can live up to 100. How does that look like? Let's say you can live up to 90. Just being intentional on the quality of life. I feel like that's pretty much the basis of what my work is and what
Mhm.
I also embody every single day. So the question that I always ask, if I guess if I had a tagline, it would be, what opportunities do I have to thrive today? That's the question I always ask myself.
That's a really
Yeah.
good question. And I love the fact that you share, this book is the outcome of your experience, right? Maybe we'll dive right into it. Like, why did you write this book specifically? Because you could have written anything, right? You have your nurse, your certified sleep coach, and I know you do a few other things that in your personal and professional life. Like, why sleep tight?
Thank you for asking. I wrote Sleep Tight because I was actually looking at that question, and I wanted to answer it in a more altruistic way. And I was like, you know what, it's okay, I'll be selfish. I run it as a way to have all my healing tools together, because I've gone through quite a lot as far as healing and transforming my life.
Mhm.
And I tend to be that person who is all about the application, and when I talk about transformation, there are just so many branches. Me
Mhm.
being an immigrant, I came to Canada on a scholarship like back in 2007. There's there's so much that can happen when you've been thrown into a new environment and you're trying to evolve, and that affects your health. There's so many statistics that shows that within 2 years of people immigrating into a new country, they have such a high risk of different diseases. And so when I talk about healing, I don't talk about it lightly. I recently have done lots of different healing. Some of the healing happened as a result of like learning the hard way. Others happened because I've learned to be proactive. So on one hand, I was like, I want a place where I can put all my healing together so it's not lost for my future self. So I
Mm,
can remember where I came from, so I don't go back there.
mm,
But then in doing so, I looked at my life as a holistic picture and I said, where did you struggle the most? And at what area of life that seemed to just mess up all the other areas? And that was actually the conversation rise when I came to you. I was like, I don't know what's going to be, what I'm going to focus on. And I talked a lot about how I love storytelling.
mhm,
Like you said, I do a lot of things. I
mm.
love running and exercising.
Yeah.
I love talking about discipline because
Yes.
it's one of the things that have really made a difference in my life. But
Mhm.
then I also sat back and looked at what's the one area of life that affected all these other areas that you think you want to write about. But in the process, okay, now I said I'm going to be selfish first, but of course, I'm also altruistic.
Mhm.
I come from like a big family, and even I went into nursing because I love helping people. So I,
Yeah.
I can roast myself that way instead of like telling people that I'm selfish. It's not true.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then the other side was okay, you can have this like reflection and report of how you've done things for your future self, but in the process, you're gonna help a lot of people. I was like, yes, that's pretty
Mhm.
much how I processed getting to writing about sleep tight. And also knowing that with your help, I could combine that journey, that scientific knowledge with my ability to storytell, which is why my book is basically a marriage between storytelling and sleep science. Each chapter being written, having a story and a question reflection. So it's a narrative style book.
Yeah. The
Mhm.
one word that comes to mind is a roadmap. It's like literally a roadmap. But then you can kind of pop in, just like how you shared in your book reading that you did at Vancouver Public Library of recent. And you're
Mhm.
like, you can pop into this chapter for this specific thing. I don't want to spoil your book. So I'm not, you're gonna have to pick it up to know what I'm talking about. And then you can pop into a different chapter and oh, this is what I'm working on right now, right? And I loved your comment as well. One of my friends, Antonia, had commented, like, oh my goodness, how am I gonna keep up with all these books? And you're like, you can read it hand in hand based on where you're at and what you're working on. And Joselyne, I'm going to transition into the next question. You're a high performer. You're very motivated. You're very disciplined. It was an honor and a pleasure to work with you. Why did you reach out for support?
Yeah, that's actually a great question. And I want to start answering it by speaking to high performers, highly motivated, and self-disciplined people. And the research that I came upon, along with my own self-awareness and self-discovery. So basically, the research said people who are disciplined and high performers, that sometimes acts against us when we are achieving goals that have a lot of like dynamics. I'll give an example. For example, I have run a marathon, and there are situations that I've got into where I said I would rather run another marathon, and I would do it anytime other than deal with that situation. at
Mhm.
emotional level. I'm like, just tell me I'm
Mhm.
gonna run the marathon. Why? Because preparing for marathon or for a high performer, because we people who are high performer and we are disciplined, that means that we have habituated ourselves to be in control of our habits and our discipline. So it's like it's no brainer. Like we got it under control. Like it's no problem.
Mhm. Mhm.
So we are in control of that process of making sure we sleep on time, eat, train for the marathon, and actually be able to run it at a specific time, all in my control. Like I don't have to deal with anybody else.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I think for me, it was just my self-awareness, because they say self-awareness can be a gift or a curse, because when you discover stuff about you and you're like, oh my god, what do I do with that? So for me it was knowing that I had been wishing to write a book since 2008. So I was like, well, I didn't do it because I had a lot of drafts. Like I've written a bunch of things in my computer, but like on one hand it was me knowing myself that if I did it by myself I would get, basically, when you're so disciplined you can easily get frustrated. Maybe just me. Maybe other disciplined people can let us know if they also
I can
easily
relate
get
to that.
frustrated.
I can relate to that. I'm like, yes, yes, as you're going on. Go ahead.
Yeah, because for me, I could foresee myself doing it, and then getting to the point, getting frustrated. But also, even the self-discipline thing that was more self-contained and I had control over, like a marathon, I still needed other people to help me. So I knew the importance of approaching someone who is already like going through the same journey. I believe in like personal development and growth and mentorship. So I think it was a combination of like I'm gonna need someone who has done this, but secondly, someone who is gonna prevent me from like self-sabotaging. Because at one point this could be frustrating, and I'm just gonna like, because I knew that the self-discipline was probably in the first part, and then the other part I have to deal with a lot of other things, dealing with people. Anyway, so
Mhm.
that was mainly that. And the third reason was because you supported Joy, who is now community, and I know Joy. And then um, I heard about Joy's book through our mutual friend, Naomi, who said, oh my God, I just, and I was like, oh my God. And then it also felt like if someone in my community did it, it
Mm.
just felt so much closer then. So I think for me, it was all these reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think of representation, right? It's because you see someone else in the community that, for me,
Mhm.
that's how I look at it. It's like I see someone who looks like me, and then I see there's a possibility that I can do it. Or if it's like another woman, it looks doable, it looks attainable. That I'm so glad that Joy did, and you got to do your own book as well. And I know how much it impacted me just from reading and guiding you through, right? There was one thing that you said. I can't remember if it was a quote in a book or not. But and I've probably shared this with probably 100 or more people, and I'm not even exaggerating, but that's how much it impacted me. Is you said we start our sleep routine when we wake up. And I'm like,
Yes.
ooh, I still remember that moment when I read that, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, this is so true. And then it just raised my awareness on
Yeah.
everything that I'm doing throughout the day, and
Yeah.
and in so many other components that you talk about in environment and people and how everything just contributes throughout the day. But maybe you want to speak to that without telling people what is in the book.
Yeah. I thank you for bringing that up. It's in chapter 7 that I talk about how sleep begins when you wake up. That's when, and people think that sleep ends when you wake up, and that's when it begins.
Mhm.
And it's easy to think about in terms of our internal sleep clock, right? So, the circadian rhythm, which is a cyclical nature of how things go, in order for our internal clock to connect and sync with the environment.
Mhm.
And so it's a cycle, right? And so many different things are happening at different time.
Mhm.
For example, certain proteins are being produced at the same time. And one really cool example is how even like different gut bacteria are
Mm.
going to like be um they will show up at different times in different months based on when it is. That's when you're gonna have things like nocturnal, when you have issues with like parasites or these really terrible microbiome or like bacterial parasites, they will be more active at night, for example. So we
Mhm.
have this, and you know, 24/7 clock that's happening, whether we recognize it or not.
Mm.
So that's how we can be impressed that our sleep begins when we wake up. It's because it's a cycle, and people have chosen to think that that's when it ends, but that's when it's beginning. So we can
Mhm.
continue on later on. And yeah, so in chapter 7, that's where I talk about that. And I call chapter 7 a 24-hour sleep makeover
Yes.
because it basically brings all the tools from other 6 chapters together,
Mhm.
and it allows you to be able to start the day like when you wake up, exactly what to do when you wake up during the day, a few
Mm.
hours before bed, and it's all laid out really clearly to for you to see what are some of the options, things I can do to promote sleep. So
Mm.
I really I enjoyed writing chapter 7. I wrote it at Spanish Banks
I remember
at the
that
beach.
actually. I do remember that because I think we did like a coaching call while you were there, like before
Yeah, I was
you wrote
like,
it or something like that. Yeah, in your car before you got out.
yeah. So yeah, that's it's definitely if people can remember that cycle that we go through, and uh, so that you can catch the cycle at the right time, so that the cycle is gonna work for you. And the morning essentially is such a beautiful gift that we
Mhm.
have. I call them morning glories.
Yeah. Oh,
When you slept well, you step into your morning glory.
yeah. Oh, now I am curious with like, because you there's so much value in this book, right? And I know that breakthroughs happen, and I'm curious to know which one you would like to share with our audience who are listening in. Um, what is that moment of breakthrough for you? Maybe one moment or two, up to you what you want to share. And what did that feel like?
There were so many breakthroughs, but I feel like I should probably share the one that's going to help new new authors.
Yes, please.
One that was so big for me. Um, there's definitely two, but the second one is small. So let me start with the big one. Is this idea of validation? Like,
Mm,
and okay, it's so complex for me when I was discovering it that even articulating it, it looks complex because I asked myself, why am I writing this book? What if no one is gonna like it? So I think that was the sense of validation within me that was like yearning. It was like this thirsty validation side of me that was like, I just need a way. And I when thinking about it, it could be attached to control as well.
mhm,
And what I want to put out there is when we seek validation, when is it coming? Where is it coming from? Because
mm,
there are so many branches to that. And along with that, I realized that I was just focusing on the wrong things because you're focusing on how the book is going to be received. So is this idea, what if my creativity is not received in the way that I think? But then at that stage, I needed to be focused on embracing my creativity
mhm,
because, and then I end up discovering that my creativity is this gift that I'm being given. that I'm going to share with people. Therefore, it's not even an issue of validation. It's this process, this sacred moment where I need to focus on receiving that gift,
Mm.
which is creativity,
Mhm.
and then finish it. And then my job will be done. Because it's almost like receiving a very delicate gift. They say it's perishable or like it's glass. Hey, happy birthday. Like then you receive it very well. You don't start to think, oh, how is my best friend gonna uh,
Mm.
like this? You are fully focused on making sure that you receive it well and you deliver it at your home. It's something with flowers. We often make sure they like when someone gives you flowers, what do? You sometimes I've done that in the past where I asked the restaurant to keep it in the water while I ate so
Mm.
they don't go bad.
Yeah.
So that was the breakthrough. Let
Mhm.
me just focus on receiving this gift and offering it.
Mm.
And then I don't even need to focus on validation. So essentially, um, what I really discovered, it was all connected to other things like self-belief is really an inside job. It's not something that you can outsource
Mhm.
or ask, like you will just, and I think self-belief comes from understanding the value of the gift. Because if you really focus on the gift, be like, oh, I believe this gift is going um to 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 extend maybe the presence of that person who gave it to you. And I that really helped me throughout the writing process, shifting the focus because so
Mhm.
many things can go wrong when you are actually focusing on the wrong things.
Yes.
I think you know what they say, where your focus goes, your attention goes, or something like that. And that we are often managing our focus, not our time. So
Mhm.
that was really big because then every time something bad happened, or I guess I experienced challenge in my writing process, I would say, okay, what do you think you need to be focusing on right now? And you brought me back to that because you had everything broken down. Right now, we're writing.
Yeah.
And then we will do this, right? So
Yeah.
it was all about what are we focusing on right now? And you helped a lot keeping me focused on the creative process. You know, you have all these amazing ways you do that. Like you have great reminders, everything is organized, you have all those exercises to keep us on track. So that was to me like
Mhm.
the core. But one more thing I wanted to share,
Please.
especially with upcoming writers, was
Yeah.
for me, I discovered that avoidance is another way your fear shows up.
Ooh. Please say
Yeah,
more. Please say more.
yeah. Because sometimes we think fear shows up as, oh my God, I'm so fearful, like I don't want to do it. We think that it's going to be heightened response.
Mhm.
But sometimes like I was actually surprised. I was like, oh, interesting. So fear can also show up pretty calm, like, yeah, just don't worry about it. Like just you don't
Mhm.
have to do it right now.
Mhm. I really love how, like I'm like, okay, what was a breakthrough for you? And you're talking about like the distractions. I love how you bring it back to yourself. And I witnessed that happen, right? And the beautiful thing about like working with you and then now, building on this friendship, it's that you you shared like the details. You're like, this is my intention and this is what I'm experiencing. This you give me the full picture. So I was actually able to even support you even better and focus in on, okay, let's bring it back to here. What about this? Right. And when you were talking about focus, I was thinking about when you're driving, right? And then your head kind of goes this way and then the car goes with you as you're kind of
Yeah,
moving your head or riding a bicycle. That's kind of like what I
yeah,
think of, right? And that's why it's so important to have like mentors and coaches, accountability partners in our lives. And I know you have
mm,
so many different accountability partners. I want you to share about that, right? Like there's some writers who would maybe can't afford to invest in a coach, right? Or they're writers who are like, I don't know, I want to do this all by myself, right? Because I've written
Mhm.
these articles, I've written this newsletters. What would be your advice based on your experience? Like what? Because you had a few people who were supporting you through. I wasn't the only one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I picked a few people to support me, and I can think of like shout out, shout out. I remember one of my friends who would go to play tennis and would be asking me questions because he's such a strong leader and has great like executive coaching skills. He'd be
Mhm.
asking me tough questions when I wasn't ready to answer them because I was in my avoidance mode.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, so I think self-awareness is definitely the beginning.
Mhm.
That's what they say, self-awareness, the beginning of transformation. What helped, like you said, I knew I was so aware, and I'm a big fan of reflection, discovering more about myself. I learned a lot about myself during this process. So I think I would say they should be honest with themselves. What
Mhm.
are strengths and weaknesses?
Mhm.
Um, and also, it's not just strengths and weaknesses, but it's I like like the last interview I did with or the interview I call them the inner demons, but there's a better word. I think when it comes to every single challenge or whenever we behave against our success outline, because like when you are trying to do something, you think you would just act according to what you planned, but then there's times where you realize you're not really responding in alignment with your success or with your path, the path that you want. So I think at that point it just means that there's part of you that needs to grow and catch up with the speed of success that you're trying to achieve. So it's important for a person to be honest with themselves on how they were able to achieve those like growth spikes in the past and whether or not they
Mm.
still have the capacity to be able to achieve the same
Mhm.
uh, in light of the new challenge. Um, so that's why for me, I knew that I needed to have a coach because usually when it comes to personal growth, I'm more of a teamwork person. Like that's why I also do therapy.
Mhm.
I'm gonna need a person. I usually benefit from having a person to help me go over, you can call it like a bump or
Mhm.
the way that I saw it in my writing process, it felt like I reached. It just felt like a wall, but it's like listening to it. It doesn't make sense, but that's how it felt
I get
emotionally.
it. I
It
get
felt like so I was moving, writing, doing all these things about the book, and then there's a wall. I don't know. And I tried to push,
it. Mhm.
but it's just not moving.
Yeah.
And then the growth process, it would be coming back to inner self and look and say, oh, okay, what are some of the reasons? Like, what do I need to shift? It's almost like you're looking for the key inside, or I don't know if you're putting new glasses on, because suddenly when you do some work inside, then all of a sudden you're like, oh, there's a door at the corner. I didn't even realize that.
Mhm.
That's how it felt. But
Mhm.
the inner process, those growth spikes, basically until mindset shift and challenging a belief. That's what I discovered that again, if you're acting in a contradiction with what you're trying to achieve,
Mhm.
there is like a mindset or a belief that needs to be looked at in order for you to suddenly, because I think mindset shifts and belief shifts or belief replacements,
Yeah.
they almost give you new eyes. That's the best I can explain it. Because
Mhm.
suddenly you're like, oh my goodness, like this is how I see the world now. So,
Mm-hmm.
someone who is like, I can do it on my own, they need to be able to have that inner process. Um, like they need to be able to do that inner process on their own. But then, even if they did on their own, it's not enough. They need to find someone who is going to support that. Um, because I benefited from you asking me the right questions, listening. Like when I wrote the chapter 4 was one of those challenging chapters to write.
I remember. It was another phone call from the car. I remember that.
Yeah, so I think because we can underestimate the inner processing, or even the intensity that comes as a result of
Mm-hmm.
the inner processing. Because for every external, because writing is definitely that's pretty much how I can put it. Like, fine, do it on your own, but understand that there are uh, the healing process that has to happen, and prepare for you to be able to go through those growth spikes, and be able to engage with yourself internally for mindset shift and challenging your beliefs. What does that environment look like for you? Are you gonna then have like a therapist twice a week, more often than normal, which I end up doing?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but also this idea of familiarity and validation. Validation, the healthy type of validation, not the other one I was talking about before,
Yeah.
where for you, right, because you understand the process. It felt good for me that I could actually talk to you about the process, because you understood the entire process.
Mm-hmm.
So I just felt understood. And that just gave me like this peace, like, yeah, I can wait to talk to Razi about this, like this and this. But it's also personality wise too. Like, the question is, how do you process? How do you grow?
Yes.
And then, how are you going to prepare for intense growth? Because
Mm-hmm.
it's intense growth.
It is. It
I
is.
know it
Believe
took
it
me
in
a
this.
while.
Yeah.
A while to explain, but that's pretty much how I would answer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well
Yeah.
received. Well received. Like as we wrap it up, like what would there's so many things to take away, and whoever's listening right now, it's a lot to unpack. You're probably writing notes and etc. What would be your last words for, let's think of, I'm gonna create this like writer, like a writer who is stuck, right? Either it's like in the planning stages, they really, really want this book, right? They maybe it's a decade they've been wanting to put this book out. They have a manuscript ready, or they're in the ideation stage. Maybe talk to us about like all these different stages of like planning, writing, and then hesitating to publish. What would you say to that experienced writer?
Hmm. The the best way that I convinced myself was, don't deprive the world of your gift, kind of thing. Because it's like, okay, you could get to publishing, and there were so I almost gave up 5 times. I counted.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
in the end, it was like I would go and read my book. I'd be like, wow, this is actually really helpful. I'd be like, no, 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 you can't deprive people of this. Like, um, so I think and the thing about gifts is, often with gifts, you don't really know how much impact it's going to make to the person receiving it. The only thing you have
Mhm.
is the value you believe your gift is, and that's all.
Mhm.
So then you really need to just embrace this gift that you're carrying, and just don't deprive the world of it.
Mhm.
Your job is simply to give the gift, and the rest will come, which is state to the author journey, like everybody having their own author journey. And
Mhm.
I have seen different authors. And when I embrace that, my path is just going to be unique because I put the gift in there. And now it's my author journey, and it's not going to look similar to another person's author journey.
Mhm.
So just sticking to the gift and remembering your why,
Mhm.
and just don't worry about how. Please don't. Don't deprive your gift from the world.
Mhm.
And do not, please don't worry, don't focus on how. Because okay, even if you believe in God, God has like trillion like opportunities or ways. And also, we can't really base your faith on what you see. That's why
Mhm.
when you focus on your gift, it's much easier. So it's like what you see right now, you don't even know, not even, it's not even like 1% of the things that might happen. Because
Yeah.
for me, all the stuff that are happening now,
Mhm.
I did not imagine this stuff. So I think when you just focus on the gift, you really indulge in the gift, write the book the way you want, so that it's gonna be really enjoyable. That
Mhm.
because when I was really stressed out about the book, I'll go back and read the stories. They made me happy, and I
Yeah.
smiled because I wrote them in the way I wanted, with just and friendly.
Mhm.
So, uh, so please just focus on the gift. Make it your own unique process. Just continue to ask yourself, how can I make this my journey? Don't worry about how they say you should do it, because
Mm.
that way it's going to step into your unique path, and people will, because in the end, that's what makes it a true gift, because you're crafting it, and it's from the heart, from the intention, in the way that you
Mhm.
can really craft it and give it.
Yes.
And in that way, by doing that, you already feel good that you've created something and you just want to give it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's a lot. It's a lot to unpack. I love it. Because it's like and I love the common theme, right? You're saying you have a gift, right? And you started with yours, like you have this gift, and why keep it to yourself? Why not share it with, people who are gonna receive it? And then there's, the experienced writer who is in the planning stage or in the writing stage or hesitating to publish. They have a gift. We all have a gift that we need to share. Like it's not for us to keep. We can keep a little bit and then share a little, right?
And they can read this book to stay productive while writing. I actually talk
Yeah.
about how I, because creativity and sleep sometimes, it's all about doing things at the right time, right?
Mhm.
With anything. So
Mhm.
creativity at night is like, so just being able to invest in those creativity moments, and prioritizing your sleep, because sleep is really important for your cognitive performance. And interesting, because I was actually just doing a training on mental health and sleep, such
Mhm.
as like losing 40 to 70% memory capacity, or reducing your ability to learn by 40%. When you think about creativity and innovation being reduced as well, that's a big deal for when you're coming up with new ideas.
Mhm.
So while it may feel like creativity has no time, but we can actually organize ourselves that there are like times of creativity, which is one
Absolutely.
of the things that you teach,
And you got to feed
finding your
it. Got to
creative.
feed it. Got to feed it.
So anyway,
Yeah.
I think they can do this if
Yeah.
they just really focus on the gift and just
Yeah.
remember why, but don't worry about how
Mm-mm. Oh, who is
or who.
what people think. Jocelyn,
Yeah.
where can people find you? I am gonna put all the links for everyone who's listening right now. They're all in the notes in the description section or in the comments. where can people find you if they're like, I want to connect with Joselyne right away and ask questions because I've probably read a chapter in her book, or I want to go and buy it and I just want to connect with her and follow all her stuff online. Where do they come? Where do you want them to go? Where do you want them to go?
Okay, they can primarily find me on sleepishealth.com. That's sleepishealth.com, which is pretty much true.
That's
And
awesome.
then also I'm on YouTube as Sleep is Health One, and then Sleep is Health everywhere else on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jocelyn. You've shared so much value, and I did not expect anything less. You're and Sleep Tight is value packed. Like I'm telling you, everyone that's listening right now, there's so many things in here that you can take away and implement right now. Like I said, either you're sleeping well, you can still add value. You're not sleeping, you gotta go pick this up. Like it's never too late. So Jocelyn, thank you so much for joining me and sharing about your author's journey. It's been an honor and a pleasure to work with you and have a conversation with you. And for our audience listening in, please let me know in the comments your thoughts, and you can definitely connect with Jocelyn. Click on any of the links, and you won't be disappointed in following her all her stuff. There's a lot everywhere. Thank you, Jocelyn.
Thank you so much.
Okay.